there's an epidemic in our nation today. A pattern of abuse, neglect, and abandonment, robbing us of one of our most precious natural resources, our children.
When I was 15 years old, I ran away from home. Got a job working at this little sleazy motel as a housekeeper, and at night I sang in a bar, and in walks the blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy that's gonna make all my dreams come true. He talks me into riding all the way to Akron, Ohio to meet Mom. And when we walked into that house, it was anything but a Thanksgiving scene. I tried to run and ended up being grabbed around the waist and drug up to the third floor attic, chained me by the right ankle. This is the way I stayed for almost a year.
Typical age for a child to enter into sex trafficking is probably 12 to 14. The younger they are, the more at risk they are.
Good evening. It is such an honor and a pleasure to get a chance to spend some time with you guys. I want you to know that it is my passion that every young person that I meet, that they see the God in me and not the me in me. Started playing football at 7 years old, growing up in Baton Rouge, and had a really close family, an older brother and a younger sister, loving parents. I drew a lot of my habits and was shaped as a kid more so, not just my parents, but my community. I had a lot of great friends, their parents. We spent a lot of time together, so the people around me helped influence totally the person that I ultimately became to be. I was kind of a rebellious child a lot, and my parents really couldn't control me at times, but I was thankful to also have other parents to help keep me in line and help me stay the course so that I could maximize my full potential. Well, as a kid, I think that it's pretty normal that we all go through things. We're all challenged by life. We all have obstacles in our lives. Distractions that may stray us away from becoming who we ultimately are destined to be. And me as a kid, I fell into those things. I had friends that who had parents that weren't as strict as mine, so they experienced certain things, and them being my friends, the peer pressure, I wanted to experience those things. And I did experience those things, and it was a learning experience for me. And I would say this, my learning experience came from the fall of the people close to me. A lot of guys got in trouble. I was just fortunate enough to never get caught. You have to stay close to God. You have to find your purpose. And in the end, you will win. Your tough times in life will lead you to be who you are supposed to be, what God has designed you for. One of the greatest things that I've ever learned is the power of love. If you show a kid love, it is their accountability. It becomes their accountability because all they want is for someone to love them. And a lot of kids miss out on that. And the Generation Next Foundation, when I was drafted, was established with a passion to reach out to those kids. In this life, young people, you're gonna have to stand for something, or you will fall for anything.
The number one risk factor for children with respect to human trafficking is age. The younger they are, the more at risk they are. But then you add in elements like drug abuse in the home, sexual abuse in the home, running away. It's said to be probably 2 million children run away every year. Female runaways, within 48 hours of leaving, will be approached by a trafficker. And a trafficker might be a parent, it could be a step-parent, an uncle. So you have the sort of this set of traffickers that belong in the family realm. You may have other teens. This can happen as well. You may have a boyfriend who decides that he can exploit his girlfriend. That happens. A trafficker who wants to recruit a young girl or young girls for sex trafficking purposes may begin to cruise a mall and start to look for girls who maybe don't get the attention that other girls get. This individual will begin to develop a relationship, give them some compliments. Maybe after a week or two or some period of time, they've developed a relationship to the extent they can invite them to a party. And from there, they're drawn into a scenario that they can't get out of.
I tried to run and ended up being grabbed around the waist and drug up to the third floor attic, thrown in the dark where there was 2 other teenagers, a brother and a sister. They later came back, held me down, chained me by the right ankle. This is the way I stayed for almost a year. Well, people would come in and repeatedly sexually assault us. The only thing we had a mattress that was about 1/4 of an inch thick. We had sheets hung between us, but it didn't give us any privacy. And we had one bucket. That was our toilet for the 3 of us. We didn't have any privacy. All dignity was completely stripped away in many ways. It would start early in the morning, and it would happen all day long into 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Life expectancy is 7 years. They will have been raped thousands of times.
Those memories will be with me the rest of my life. And I think about the thousands of children right now that this same thing is happening to, that happened to me. And it would be so easy to stop if people would just wake up and would see the signs, the warning signs of when these children are at risk and are heading in this direction. It's so easy if people would just wake up.
The critical factor, in my opinion, was the failure to make it in school. This is almost a constant denominator among all these kids. What I realized was that the reason they didn't make it is because there was no one there to help them. They don't understand this. They think, I don't get it, something's wrong with me, Johnny gets it, Freddie gets it, why don't I get it? It's not the type of thing you share with someone, like, I don't understand what's going on. So I saw that as one of the variables. And then the second variable is that almost all of them are poor. I mean, very poor, impoverished to a level that most middle-class Americans can't really comprehend. And the third thing is that they're surrounded by an environment where people are telling them, that's the way it is, that's the way it's always going to be, so let's just get used to it. So I think the children fight that for a long time. They fight because their spirits don't want to give up. They don't want to accept nothingness. But finally what happens to most of the kids I've worked with is, after hearing that day after day, after being poor and broke all of their lives, and having come to the conclusion that they're mentally incapable of functioning in society, they adopt a perspective on life from which all of their negative decisions make sense. That's why in working with these kids, it is critically important to work with their perspective. If you can't break down the perspective, if you can't change the way they see life, then whatever kind of positive information you try to get them is going to be blocked on the way in. Conversely, if you can work with that perspective, if you can show them that what they've lived is only one version of what can be, much like Plato's allegory of the cave, all they know is what they know. If they understand that there's a world and universe beyond that which they know, anything's possible, and you can reach these kids and they can be turned around. I think the most important thing is that the person want to really help. I mean, the thing that the kids are very, very perceptive on is, are you for real? These kids have matured and developed in ways that many adults have not, because their lives of pain and stress have been condensed into a very small amount of time. So if you really care, that's step one. And then it's simply a question of, all right, what do I have as a person that I can help this young man with? Math, for example, if you can do math. In my own son's experience, that's actually the moment that I had this clarity was he was having trouble in school. He was having trouble in math, and he was getting in trouble, and I couldn't figure out why. So after speaking to his teachers, my wife and I went down and talked to him. It turns out that he couldn't do his math. And because he couldn't do his math, when he was called upon in school, he was acting out. So I remember vividly the day I sat down with him and I said, all right, Jesse, I'm going to teach you how to do your math, at least to the 5th grade level, because I really can't go too far beyond that. But I said, I'll teach you how to do this. And as I sat down with him, that's when the light went on with me about the kids that I work with. Is there's no one there to help them. What would have happened if I hadn't helped Jesse? More trouble, more problems, who knows, maybe alternative ed, who knows where the cycle goes. But the point being is, if you're one of those people that could sit down with a young man and teach him some math skills or teach someone how to read. I know kids, I had a kid in a group home that literally, top of the level system in the group home, I said, why don't you go get yourself a job? He told me he didn't want to. His name was Ben. Turns out he didn't want to get a job because he couldn't read the bus. Where the bus was going, he didn't know how to read. We didn't know that. We taught him how to read. These things are life changers, and the kids love it. They love the bonding. They love the caring. If you're one of those people, get involved and make these kids' lives better, because you will just by being a part of it.
The Street Law Program is a organization that was started by Stetson Law students about a year ago, and the purpose of the program is to have law students teach middle school students and high school students about the school-to-prison pipeline. And how they do this is by focusing on the Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment rights, as well as talking about how a middle school student would be impacted by different laws and policies that criminalize their behavior. We also focus on conflict resolution and on skill development. How to manage bullying, for example, is one of the things that the law students teach the middle school students and the high school students. And this program is really designed to have law students understand how important they can be to a young child who's in middle school, who's facing a school resource officer on a regular basis, who's facing the possibility of potentially being criminalized at a very young age of 11 or 12. So it gives the law student the opportunity to serve as a mentor, but it also gives the child an opportunity to interact with another young adult who could serve as a role model for them as well. It's the norm, really, for kids to make mistakes. That's part of being a kid. The problem with the system right now is that when you make a mistake, you are harshly, as a child, harshly punished. Punished to the point where you no longer go to the principal's office or the teacher's office. You're literally sent into the criminal justice system. So the consequences are severe. And so it's important for kids to understand that really they're not really being treated like children anymore. They're being treated like adults. Their childhood is not valued by the system, the public school system, or by the police system right now in many instances. Kids who make terrible decisions, childlike decisions, are being punished as if they're adults, and that's what's unacceptable about the system, and that's why we need mentors to intervene and to talk to these kids about the possibilities of what their actions could bring, the consequences of what could happen. We need adults to come in and to really talk to kids about how to avoid making serious mistakes that will cost them really their future.
God really put on my heart was that I had a unique opportunity to start this organization that we formed, STAR, which is Stop the Abuse and Rescue, because we are able to pull that "you don't understand" card off the table. We are able to offer that safe home with the understanding of, I do know what you've been through, and I do know what it feels like to feel like nobody understands. We love these women. Every one of these women call me Mama Niki. Their kids call me Nana and Grandma because they're family to me. They don't just go away just because I've given them a new set of clothes and handed them a Bible. They're in my life for the rest of their lives and hopefully for the rest of mine.
All they need is an understanding that the life they've lived is only one version of what is possible, and that if they take certain concrete steps, they can have the same things as everybody else. They can have a good job, a family, and a nice life. They've got to see how that's possible, and they have to know that it's possible. If they see how and they know that it is possible, they will take those steps.
Your character means everything. I wanted to go play in the NFL, but it was not my time yet. And the only reason why I knew that is because I was being led by our higher power. When you allow him to lead you, you will never be steered in the wrong direction. Regardless of how tough it is, regardless of how hard it is just what you need to be what God has designed you to be.
We were very blessed in July of 2013 to open the first and only safe house in Pinellas County, Florida, dedicated to exploited and trafficked women. And we're hoping this year to open phase 2 of Chrissy's house.
Why do you call it Chrissy's house?
Chrissy's house is because the woman that sheltered me during the time when I was the most vulnerable, the most fragile, the most frightened, her name was Chrissy. And I'm hoping, I've talked with her on the phone, and I hope I get to see her again sometime in the near future.
Adults have the opportunity to speak into kids' lives several hours a week if they can do it. Mentor these kids, begin to build in them a self-view that makes them less vulnerable. It's important that we look at those kinds of activities as seed planting activities. And you enter into that mentoring relationship not with the thought of what you're going to get out of it, but with the thought of what the child's going to get out of it at a time when you may not even see it. So you may change a life that change manifests 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It may manifest in the way that they raise their kids.
What they need, most of all, what they need is for people, number one, to believe that they're capable of learning, that they're capable of understanding, and that they're capable of moving forward in their lives. I think too often we give up on kids. We give up on them quickly and permanently, unfortunately, in these times. And we need people to really believe that children can get past the obstacles that are confronting them. A lot of the kids in the prison system and the juvenile justice system are kids with learning disabilities. They've dropped out of the educational system mentally before they drop out of it physically, and we need to be able to recognize them as they're falling and catch them before they fall. So giving some time to them, making sure that they know someone cares about them can make all the difference in the world. Just showing up on a regular basis, being consistent, in being present in that child's life can make a huge difference.
One-time buck is giving back to the community big time, one home at a time.
My favorite story tonight,
yes.
Michael Clayton partnered up with Eckerd Community Alternatives and Camelot Community Care to help these young adults transition from the foster care system to independent living, all while getting the mentorship they need. Now, the final touches were put on several properties in Tampa, and the very first of 12 tenants moved in yesterday. Michael, along with a team of volunteers from the Generation Next Foundation, personally mentor these young men, and this is just the beginning.
The reason why I wanted to step out and do this particular unit by myself is to show people that it can be done. But when you talk about housing thousands of kids, you're definitely going to need community support.
Now, if you want to get involved and be a mentor with Generation Next, we've posted all the information you need to know at WTSP.com.
No child deserves to be exploited. Adults have an opportunity to speak into the lives of children and change the lives of those kids. And it's the right thing to do.
I would say to parents, you know, your kids may not enjoy something, they may not like it, but stay in there. When things are difficult, those things are sometimes the best teaching moments. Be patient. Be patient with your kids. Hang in there and take off the limitation. All right, what you got? What you got for the camera? Huh? You wanted to be in the movie. You gonna get back into karate? No? What kind of music we listen to on the way to work? Daddy listen to hip hop music? No? What kind of music Daddy listen to?
Gospel.
Gospel music. Daddy listen to Christian rap.
And Mommy's here.
All right, and Mommy's here.